Hello, 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 hello. We get started here very shortly. All right, give me a couple seconds because I am getting my tie on. I'm not born with a tie. I know that's a strange thing. Strange thing to say. How you guys doing, chat? It's not gone, just delisted. Yeah, it's delisted. Like GameStop stock. Oh! Yeah, we'll talk about that here in a bit. It is gone. There is no such thing as iCache anymore. It's just been changed. It's changed names. We'll talk about that when we get into it. Ugh. I'll talk about that too. God, I hate this. I've got a new challenge for all of y'all. All right. Let's turn some audio off. We don't get background noise. Ha-ha! Go to the office. Ugh, of course it's not going to work. That's because I'm in the wrong place. 1 second. I'm a moron. There we go. That'll work. Hello and welcome to the Astropub. Welcome to Office Hours. My name is Paul, Berserker01, Batman Shelley, your humble host and space bartender at the Astropub, your moderator on Captain's Table, and your professor on Galactic Historian. How's it guys going? Welcome everyone from YouTube and Twitch. Your challenge tonight, Astropub, is to find where the server's meshing. Where is the first server meshing? Yes. So we'll talk about a couple things. We'll talk about some of the updates, and we'll talk about specifically where iCache has gone, because I know it's going to happen. It's probably already happened, and it will continue to happen. That people will freak the fuck out because iCache is not on the roadmap or on the progress tracker. I can see that dude who checks on Star Citizen once every, 2 months, going in being like, hey, I thought this iCache thing was supposed to fix everything. Some bald guy on the internet told me that. And I believe all bald men on the internet. So, before we get started, here's a couple of things. First of all, I decided that I was going to make a challenge to all of you fans of mine. Those of you who've known me the longest know that I utterly despise and hate the Redeemer. It is a piece of garbage. It is a giant flaming pile of poo-poo. It is an affront to the name Aegis, and frankly, should be yeeted out of a cannon into the sun. But, I have a challenge for you. Since the museum pieces are my most popular piece of Galactic Historian videos, and since the Redeemer is a very, very anticipated ship, if we reach 10,000 subscribers on YouTube, we're at 8,000 something right now, I will do a thing on the Redeemer. If we reach 20,000 subscribers on YouTube, it will not be a takedown of the Redeemer, talking about how garbage it is. Your move, fans. Your move, Star Citizen community. I hate it. I hate it. Thank you. Welcome, Evergame. Jock Cops, CS Forest, Snowfox, Morpheus, Dibley, Macam, Max, Sir Mr. Pegwin, San Groper, Dibley. Thank you for that Prime sub, by the way, Sir Mr. Pegwin, and for that for 2 months, and sub that 7 months from you, Target. Thank you so much. And thank you for gifting that sub to Nighthawk. For those of you who are unfamiliar with, I tend to not do the dance thing on for subs for this one because it's kind of like both a video and a live stream at the same time. So those of you who have not seen this before as well, this is a live stream where I talk about lore and then other things. It's kind of like a combination of like a one-man's captain's table in my Galactic Historian videos. So, and me just talking about Warhammer for reasons and lots of other things. So, before I get jumping into the actual story behind Star Citizen, well, not Star Citizen, Star Citizen, well, brain no work today. The story behind the Javelin wreck on Daymar. I don't know where I just Star Citizen. Just Star Citizen. Just start adding that to every sentence. So yes, the story of the Javelin wreck on the Daymar. It actually has a story. It actually has a name now. Well, I've already recorded the audio for the actual video for it, but we'll go over kind of the basics of what it is in a little bit more tropey fashion here. I do want to talk about that. I also want to talk about a couple of things. I'm going to try to release a video a week for this entire month, but I also want to take a break in like February because, as you can tell, my brain no work. I need sleep and I need time to do other things other than make videos, write videos, and stream and work, which is hard to do. So I will be taking a break at some point in February. We'll see when that actually happens, but yes. So just be prepared for that. I'll do my best to try to like make a video ahead of time and release it around that time as well, so that I can have 2 videos out. I can have a video out that week, even though I'm working on other things. Redeemer using ages-old parts other ships never used. You can talk about Warhammer because the Emperor protects. He does. He also saves. Instigator, how's it going? Brain, what's that? I don't know. My brain no work today. So let's go over, then we'll also go over the updates, and we'll talk about iCache. Where is it? Where'd it go? Everything's on fire. Bail out. Sell. Oh, that was the other thing I was going to say. With all of this GameStop stuff going on, this is going to date this video horribly. All the GameStop stock market stuff going on, one of the things I've been thinking about is how a stock market could actually add some very interesting drama into Star Citizen, both as a gameplay perspective in terms of storytelling and events, but also in terms of players manipulating the stock market. I can see you could still add the same kind of quanta things that can protect the market in general, the commodities and such from getting tanked or inflated by one or one dedicated group can be put to the same task of buying and selling stocks. It's not that much different in terms of the actual mechanisms. So, and I think it would add a very interesting dynamic for the universe. It'd make it feel more lived in. It would also be a giant meme that I could get behind. Infinite money glitch. The problem is, and I've heard people say it was like, oh, it's gonna tank the economy or ruin the economy day one. It's like the economy is gonna be ruined day one, guys. Economy is ruined now. It will be ruined when they add in the first layers of iCache. It'll be ruined. It'll be ruined up until release, up until the final reset happens. it'll be ruined. It'll be absolutely just torpedoed into oblivion. All right. All of our systems are capitalistic in Star Citizen. It's a capitalist, hyper-capitalism simulator to a degree. So it makes sense that you're going to have those problems. All right. I don't know why this is doing this. Hold on. There we go. That's better. All right. So let's go over the wreck on Daymar. Let me pull up a picture so you guys have an idea while I'm talking about this. This is a picture I pulled off the interwebs. The Javelin on Daymar. All right. So let's talk about this. For those of you who haven't seen it, there is a Javelin wreck on Daymar. Go see it. It's amazing. Now, some interesting information I found out in this research of this. First of all, the new date for the discovery of the Stanton system, which was originally 2903, has been pushed back to 2851, which means this year is the centennial anniversary of the discovery of the Stanton system. One of the most important systems in the UEE. Just saying. So, in 2951, or 2851, there was two things that are happening. One, there was a decline in colonial ambitions. And two, there was a straight up recession, really bad recession economically. A lot of people were losing their jobs. So on top of that, spending is kind of tight for the UAE government because they're trying to get out of the recession. So they're trying to figure out what to do with Stanton. In the meantime, though, they know they can't get rid of Stanton because if they try to just abandon Stanton, it'll turn into Nyx or Pyro or Spider. So, because it's too valuable of an asset. So they have to do something. So what they do is they build a base. That main base is built into the atmosphere of Stanton 2, which we today know as Crusader. That base was designed as a shipyard, both a shipyard and a dock. They felt that if they could build a large shipyard in this reasonable area, because I believe it's like semi-weightless, I guess, or there's some aspect of the actual planet that makes it easier to maneuver around ships in that atmosphere. It's not like you just fall straight down. You can use like low-powered maneuvering jets or something like that. I don't know. We'll see. We'll find out when they add that in. But there's something about it that makes it easier for them to build it in the upper atmosphere. So the UEE was using that specifically so that they could maintain and maybe even build ships in this unique environment. Let me pull up my notes so I know exactly who I'm talking about. And I'm also going to turn off this music, which is great. But here we go. That's good. Drive. All right. By 2858, this base was complete, and the terraforming of the entire system was mostly done. And it seems to be the first, if not one of the first, commanders of this base was named Admiral Pavlina Marlin. Pavlina. Admiral Pavlina Marlin. Now, Admiral Marlin, she was a admiral in the UE Navy who had been assigned her entire career to backwater outposts and rear guard actions. Her entire, at least admiral career. She came from a long line of settlers from Virgil. Virgil fell in 2737. Her parents fled the system, abandoning their ancestral homeland as the Vanduul invaded and conquered the entire system. Her parents barely made it out alive. So she was raised by her parents with stories of them having to flee the only home they ever knew and watch it essentially be burned by the Vanduul invasions. So she has a bit of a grudge, just a little bit. So she used this passion for killing Vanduul to enlist in the Navy and try to kill Vanduul. But by the time she rose to the rank of admiral, she was not allowed to command troops on the front lines with the Vanduul front because the UEE High Command, the Joint Chiefs of Staff, were like, yeah, she's a little hot-headed. We're not going to let her recklessly throw people into battle and kill them. So let's put her into some other places where she can maybe cool off a little bit, become a little bit more calculated. And of course, Admiral Marlin did not like this. So by 2858, she had been assigned to the base in Stanton 2's atmosphere. And it didn't take long for her to hate it. Now, she did do what she could with the assignment she had. She whipped up support, trained all the officers and starmen beneath her, keeping them at battle ready status, running war game after war game after war game after war game, to prepare them for anything. Now, because of the recession that was happening in the 2950s and into the 2850s into the 2860s, because of this recession, many kind of independent miners were either kind of being allowed to come in and mine or were doing so illegally. But because there's 1 to 2 people operations, small family groups doing it, mostly the Navy just kind of looked the other way. So it would look bad if we collared a bunch of blue collar workers who are, mom and pop corporations for trying to mine in a system that's unoccupied. Kind of look like the bad guys in the middle of a recession. Who are we holding this for? And at the time, no one knew that the Senate was negotiating with ArtCorp, Hurston, Crusader, and Microtech to sell the planets to those companies. So no one knew why, really, there was a restriction on just kind of building up these regions. From what I could gather from the lore, it seems like there was stuff in the works from almost the very beginning of the discovery. But it took a while for the paperwork to go through and for all the sides to negotiate and come down to the right offers and everything. So that small ship in the foreground is a Buccaneer. Thanks. Hey, Jim, how's it going? We'll talk about it here in a bit, Riddick. So, she's in charge of this base, is looking for action, and they've really not been taking care of these small independent miners. Some group realized that they weren't really monitoring the system very well. So what did they do? They moved in and set up shop. We're not talking about a couple of, prospectors. We're talking about a fleet of mining and refining vessels moving in. And not just moving in, having the huevos, the absolute steel brass balls to set up this operation on Daymar. They could literally spit and hit the UEE Navy, and they was doing it right underneath their toes, as it were. I believe the selling of the rights of the planets in the Stanton system was to megacorporations to help to fund the uber-expensive Synth World project. It was, but it was also other things were going on as well. But that was one of the major purposes of it. The problem was there's no real confirmation on exactly that happened, how quickly that sale happened. From the story I read that has this story in it, it seems like they were under negotiation for selling it for a while. Took them possibly 5, if not 10 years for that sales to go through. So in the meantime, they had a moratorium on anyone developing anything in the system, which doesn't make a lot of sense if you are trying to get people to come in and settle the system. You would just let them come in rather than stop them from using the resources, which could then improve the economy. So there's something weird disconnect going on there. And I think the answer is that all this was a super secret sale that they had never been done before. So likely the Senate was taking its time and the companies were taking their time to try to figure out who has the rights to what are all the details, how are laws going to work, all that sort of thing. Because, generally speaking, you don't sell a planet to a mega corporation, especially if you expect them to obey the laws of what you set in motion. However, by 2862, this mega operation of illegal miners was discovered. Report came across Admiral Marlin's desk. She saw this, and she saw this as for two reasons. First of all, her innate instinct was if she doesn't stop this now, there'll be more, and or it'll be back. So they need to come in, and they need to come in hard to make a stance so that in the future, anyone who tries to start this again won't want to do it. A shock and awe campaign against these illegal miners. Secondly, this is a woman who's been itching for combat for her entire admiral career, and she has a chance to unleash a fleet of, captains and of officers and crew, which she personally trained for the last 4 years. Hell yeah, she's going in hard. So in goes the Javelin. The Javelin, it was called the UEES Fleisa. So that's the name of this Javelin right here. The UEES Fleisa. And a squadron of fighters. A destroyer and a squadron of fighters to go deal with this threat. The captain specifically was given the title. This is what he was given in terms of the orders. Rattle their screws loose and shock them into immediate submission. That was the admiral's orders. So the captain took this as, I'm going to go in hard and scare the pants off these things. So this squadron of fighters and a Javelin destroyer burn hard into the atmosphere of Daymar, going full tilt, nonstop, afterburners blaring into this group. This group discovered them coming hard at them and immediately panicked and then just scattered all different directions. The fighters broke away, were able to disable or down most of the fleeing ships. I don't think there was any deaths, according to what I saw. It was mostly just disabling the ships so that they would have to force them to land and such. Except for one mining vessel, which was making a hard burn for orbit. The Javelin saw this, the Fleisa saw this, so the captain ordered that they pursue. Turning hard back up in the atmosphere after burning in, and waiting for the mining vessel to breach atmosphere. So the second it broke atmosphere, they would shoot it, disable the ship, and then gather it. So it was disabled, but not going to fall from high orbit. They wanted to capture them. They didn't want to kill them. However, two things went wrong with this. Number one, the ship that was being used for an illegal mining mission, this is going to blow your mind, wasn't really serviced well by the people who were using it. So all of the components failed and lit on fire and then exploded, on their way up out of atmosphere. Actually, 3 things happened. The second thing that happens is that when you have an explosion inside a mining vessel, mining dangerously sensitive ore, you don't have 1 explosion, but 2 explosions. Not 1, but 2. So, then the third thing that happened was unknown to the captain of the Javelin, of the Flysa. The hard redirect had caused a burnout on 2 of the engines of the Javelin, so it already had 2 engines failing. So as the ship goes up, as the Javelin is chasing it, the ship explodes, the Javelin's engines start to fail, and the explosion is raining directly into the Flysa. Shockwave hits it, and then debris hits it. The captain thinks that somehow they're under attack and orders a retreat because they're out of position. So the ship then tries to change direction again. As it's trying to change direction, the overworked and failing engines explode as they're getting showered with very volatile, angry debris from the mining vessel. They explode, light on fire, and a fire catches on throughout the entire ship in minutes. With not enough thrust to get out of the atmosphere, the destroyer starts to spin into a death spiral onto the planet, onto the moon, impacts the moon while it's exploding as it's going down, and manages to rest there, killing every single crew member on board, including the captain and the officers. All, let's see what the actual number were. 65 crew members aboard were killed, making it the worst naval disaster in the 28th century. One of, if not the worst naval disaster in the 28th century, or 29th century. Now, most of this was discovered in the investigations after the fact. But, there's a problem. The investigators went through it and said, this is such a bizarre turn of events, this could have never happened. But the only reason why it happened was because Admiral Marlin was super eager and aggressive. They pulled up all of her personal communications where she was complaining to friends and colleagues that she just hated being there, that she wanted to go to the Vandal front, that she was itching for combat, that she feared that she would never go fight in the Vandal front. And then the actual orders that were given to the captain, and all of these things were used against her. Now, she's lucky she wasn't just run out of the military. Instead, she was reassigned to the Killian system, which is kind of like the training system. And she was allowed to retire a couple of years later. Since the incident, the Navy came down and stripped the Flysa of all of her usable materials that was left, leaving her basically a hollowed out wreck, with the intention of coming back and picking up the debris from the Flysa. But because of the swap over from UEE control to Crusader Industries control, somehow it got shuffled away and people forgot about it. Now, the Flysa crashed almost 100 years ago in lore. So there is no one, really, very few people who actually remember the crash of the Flysa. And very few, there's not a memorial, there's nothing there. So, and very few, as we know, barely even go to visit the Flysa anymore. So it remains a wreck, slowly being consumed by the sands of Daymar, with very few people knowing the story behind it. It being a literal piece of history. So. It is currently on Daymar. You can visit the wreck of the Flysa on Daymar today. This is a picture from in-game. This is an in-game picture of that wreck right now, available on Daymar. You can look up guides to try to find it. You can go visit yourself. Now you know the story of this ship, that it crashed in one of the worst accidents in naval history. Worst accidents to happen to the UEE in 100 years. There you go. Capital ship retreating back towards a planet. Nope, sometimes the lore team needs to tone it down a fraction. It was more that I could see the argument for it, which is an explosion happens in front of you. You weren't expecting an explosion. You think that it might have been an attack. So the order to pull back may be a preventative order at the very least, being like, hey, that's a huge explosion. I don't know what happened. This could be an attack. Let's pull back to a more defensive location or defensive position while we get our fighters to come back and screen us. Yeah, it changes with the planet tech. Haha, Quantanium go brrr. Yeah. How many ships in a squadron? I don't know. I don't know that details with CIG yet. Wasn't the wreck recently moved to a different spot recently? It's been moved around because not because of it's moved around. It's just that the actual geography of Daymar has changed. We don't know why she was court-martialed. I'm assuming it was an accident, because it was an accident and it was a freak series of events that she barely got out with her skin. But she was definitely not welcome to have a career in the Navy anymore. Because she wasn't like directly responsible for it, but she was the catalyst that caused the whole problem to happen. Oh, but the Javelin exploded in the verse is not a disaster too. That's 29th century, or 30th century, not the 29th century. Different century. And it's also more in combat. This wasn't a combat casualty. This was a freak accident. Paul, you need to buy GME and hold. Apes together strong. I don't have money for GME. Otherwise, I'd do it for the meme. So yeah, that's the story. Any questions? Any other questions about the wreck, the Daymar wreck? Any reason why the crew couldn't get to the escape rafts when it crashed? We don't really know, but from the sounds of the story, the way that I read the events that happened, it was so quick that it was no one knew what was really going on until it was too late, until they were already careening towards the surface, exploding along the way. I wouldn't be surprised by the way it was described that they were all blacked out or read it out almost instantaneously from the spin as it was going down. Yep, that is one of the tropes that I would say CIG is good for, is admirals chasing ships down and then getting sucked into the gravity wells and being humiliated. That is a common trope. And I think the reason why that's a common trope is because it has happened in at least one, if not two Wing Commanders games. So it's a trope. It's a Chris Roberts trope that he likes to pull out. Hey, Safeway, how you doing, buddy? Each time you explode an Idris or Javelin in game, you kill 1,000 NPC soldiers. No, but, maybe a couple hundred, max. It also depends on who you're killing, because there's some that are straight up not... there are some that are just straight up not UEE controlled. Like the Arlington missions or any of the Xeno threat. Those were all owned by pirate or terrorist factions. All right, so let me put this in the link as well. Do not, if you're watching this on YouTube, do not type this in the chat. Do not type this into comments. What you'll have to do is you have to look at the chat. I might put it in the top comment. There's the link for you. ! January if you're in Twitch. There you can enter to win a LTI game package Isparia Talon Shrike with two additional skins for it. Courtesy of CIG. Thank you, CIG, for that. It's going up till this week, into a couple days, I think. So make sure you enter to win. Enter the win. Yo, Cletus, me and Claim Jumpers out of Jav. Cletus, yeah, right. Hey, Sleazy. Ships that big have a lot of escape pods and sometimes have a fairly high survival rate when crashing. Sometimes, yeah. I think the way the problem was that the Javelin was so low to the ground that because it wasn't really trying to chase the ship as much as it was trying to angle its guns in a position that could fire at the ship. And it's already in the gravity well, low to the ground, had already did a lot of intense movement because it was coming in fast and hard to try to stop them in the first place, that it was already straining its engines. And the random series of events that happened afterwards was just a perfect storm of bull that just caused them to crash. Yeah. It's definitely a trope in Halo as well, where the ships that big crash all the time on the planets. It's happened in, not in Amberclad. I mean, the Pillar of Autumn, obviously. But wasn't there one that crashed like that in Nightfall? Oh, no, Nightfall was about the Pillar of Autumn, wasn't it? A small unplanned colony? Yeah, that's what Olympus is. It's a small unplanned colony run by a Tavaran, which is interesting. Did the Infinity crash as well? I haven't played Halo 5 or whatever the last one was. I played 4, but... In Halo 4? It didn't crash. It may have landed. Then you yoink yourself back up? Okay. All right. So let's talk about the fact that iCache is gone. First off, gnash your teeth. Wail. Moan. It's dead. iCache is gone. The dream is dead. No tears now, only dreams. It's dead because it's not iCache anymore. iCache has been converted from iCache to being called persistent streaming, which is both good and bad. Of course it's a trap. It's a giant what is it called? Clickbait. I'm trying to clickbait you. Why hasn't the Javelin been salvaged, recovered yet? Wouldn't it that would left there be worth a pretty penny? Evolve, it might be, but the problem is that no one knew where it was. And the people who knew where it was the most are the locals in Daymar. And the local Daymar residents, the people who use it are outlaws. So if you're an independent salvager going, hey, that's a lot of metal, which has been sitting out in the sun for 100 years. You're also probably like, I don't want to have to spend the money to have an escort just in case I run into a bunch of outlaws who might want to kill me. it's probably just not profitable enough. The material has been weathered out in the elements for over 100 years, for almost 100 years, and all of the valuable equipment was stripped from it a while ago. So iCache. Here's the thing about iCache. iCache was one part of a larger system that was dedicated to persistence. It was one of the things that they needed to do. So what they've done is they've changed the term iCache to mean more persistent streaming. And they'll likely probably give us more details as they get closer. But here's a couple of tips. Let me pull up the progress tracker to show you that why I think we're probably still getting it. It's just they're not going to tell us about it, because it's probably not going to be one big thing. It's going to be multiple things. So first off, let's read the roadmap roundup on this, so we have an idea. Yeah, that was the idea at one point there at TS4, is that you would have there's going to be a bangle somewhere floating in deep space that players might be able to fix up and get working again. It's a hole. There's nothing left but rusted tungsten, i.e. inert metal. Yeah. But how are they going to add physicalized atmosphere without iCache? That's the thing, White Wolf. White Wolf. Is that they are still doing iCache. It's just not iCache anymore. They stopped calling it iCache. So let's go down here to notable changes. All right, persistent streaming and server meshing. All right. Server meshing is an ongoing initiative that includes a variety of features and technology that will help unlock the ability to expand content and player counts in Star Citizen universe. Tasks associated with this deliverable span across multiple teams and disciplines, and you'll find work being done on all 4 quarters currently visible in the roadmap. While you may not see server meshing or pyro in the release view at the moment, this doesn't necessarily rule anything out. This merely means that we're still working on a timeline and have not currently met that threshold, 70% confidence, to target a specific quarter yet. iCache. Some of you may notice that the iCache is not present as a standalone deliverable on the roadmap. It is still there, but it's gotten a name change. This is because iCache and other similar technologies are now wrapped up in what's called within the persistent streaming and server meshing deliverable mentioned above. In addition, we've removed the convert legacy data management to iCache from the release view, as there are pending dependencies involved in the work for this. This means the fruits of these labors won't be seen until later in the year. So, there's what they said, plain as day. iCache and streaming, as all these kind of streaming services, or the persistent streaming is the new thing, right? So let's look at the progress tracker. So here's the thing that's going to be a little bit dashing. Persistent streaming and server meshing. Proprietary server meshing and persistence technology will allow Star Citizen to scale up its shared universe across game servers. Eventually, this technology will allow thousands of players to coexist in the universe. Once the first version of this is implemented, the number of servers and players will increase over successive versions. 51 weeks. So they're saying it's not going to come out until 51 weeks. Now, there's 2 ways of looking at this. There's the pessimistic way, which is probably the better one anyways, which is saying that iCache is dead and iCache is not coming until the end of the year. But in this pessimistic version, iCache and server meshing are the same thing. They're wrapped up together. You cannot remove one or the other. There was a similar example of this when OCS and bind culling were both being performed. They actually finished bind culling before they finished OCS. But when they finished bind culling, which allowed them to call out objects, or blind culling, I think is what it is, like call out objects you don't see, it didn't really work well without server meshing, without OCS, without being able to stream that information out. So they tried to implement it in a build, and it didn't work. So they just pulled it back and waited so they can get object container streaming, and then put them both in at the same time, which actually caused a huge performance increase for the game. It was one of the biggest performance increases in the entire game's ever had. And then they added more stuff, and it went back down. So, in this pessimistic point of view, iCache is no longer existing because they're doing persistent streaming and server meshing now. So iCache is now persistent streaming, and it's connected to server meshing at the hip. So without server meshing, you don't have iCache, aka persistent streaming. They're now the same thing, rather than being two separate deliverables. The optimistic point of view comes from this. We know that CIG is in a situation where anything they release from now on is going to be, they've reached the limit of their memory. There's a great video on this by Morphologist, go watch it, who talks about Daymar being removed. Let me turn the volume a little bit more here, because it seems a little loud. "100% clickbait." I don't remember if it was bind culling or blind culling, yeah. So, here's the thing. Crusader and Orison are scheduled in 3.14 in the Pi patch. There is no way in hell that Crusader and Orison would be able to make it into the game unless they had some version of iCache running in the background to be able to free up some of those assets. They would also not be able to do small home outpost colonialism if they didn't have iCache. And then expanding it even more without iCache. There's just too many things that are going on in the background to allow them to say that they couldn't. There's too many things that they're adding that would be reliant on more information. Now, they could have released enough assets for them to be able, with removing Daymar, to put this stuff in game. But I doubt they'd be able to do that and do more events, which CIG has also said they want to do per quarter, a new event per quarter. It also allows for more cave systems, yeah. So you're not having the locations of more cave drive-in and sinkhole cave entrances. You're not having the new asteroids in, and plus all this other stuff, unless they're doing some incredible balancing that I don't know about on top of all of this event stuff. Unless Daymar was such a asset sink that it was that like there's like half of the memory or whatever has been freed up, which doesn't seem to be the case based off of the performance and the other issues that were still happening in the event of Xenothreat. Unless Xenothreat, which is a brand new event, which is using all of the new technologies, is an asset hog beyond belief, which I find unrealistic. So either Xenothreat is a huge asset hog, Daymar was a huge asset hog, and Delamar's a huge asset hog, or Daymar freed up some space, but it wasn't really enough to eke out of this stuff. Now, this optimistic view is we're still getting iCache, aka persistent streaming, but they're not going to tell us unless it's already out. This is for a good reason. This is managing expectations, because if they screw up and have to push back some perfect date, because remember, the community takes one look at this and goes, "This is a promise. You promised this," and they do it all the time. Doesn't matter if you put 15,000 different caveats saying these are our plans. These are not hard in stone. They'll still think of it as a promise. People take their work days off of work for that. People just don't listen. It's just reality. So they're mitigating this process by saying, we're just going to keep going and we're just not going to tell you what's going to happen. And when it happens, we'll just tell you when it comes in. Because A, that makes sense for mitigating expectations. And B, like, who cares? Nobody cares about iCache except for weirdos like like the people who are watching now. Hi. No one cares about that. We're weirdos when it comes to that because people want ships. They want landing zones. They want gameplay. It's a game. You expect these things. So getting hyped about a piece of core technology, I'm sure makes the engineers very proud that people like us are so obsessed about it. But in reality, it's not going to sell you copies. So there's no real reason to talk about it. So you can take the pessimistic view and say, iCache is coming out at the end of the year. It's now persistent streaming. It's coming out at the end of the year, but it's going to come out be coming out with server meshing. Or at the earliest. Or you can take the more optimistic view saying it's not one piece. It's not a giant puzzle piece. It needs to have other aspects connected into it. And those will be connected in as we go along this year, which should help improve performance enough so that they can get more stuff in. So it's there. It's just not fully in yet. So that you don't really need to worry about it. So. Promise police. Promise police. We're not getting iCache this year because iCache is dead. Stop calling it iCache. iCache is dead. Long live persistent streaming. Sexier title anyways. It's more informative about it, what it is, because that's what iCache really is designed to do, which is to allow for persistent gameplay, allow for location of where you are, so when you crash, you can get brought back into it. You know, have your loadout and your armor and everything persist, have physicalized inventory. All of those things require iCache. So. It's Tonk, not Tank. Get it right, people. You will respect. You respect the new name, okay? Its name is persistent streaming, and you will respect that. Thank you, Cade. Speaking of the whole thing about CitizenCon 2016's timeline features and versions is often misconstrued and taken out of context. It was on Reddit recently. Those features and versions were outlined before CIG moved Star Citizen to a quarter release model. 3.0 and 3.1 could have been years apart back during when it was ready era. It's also a different game. The 2016 was a different scope compared to what they've been today. Do I think CIG was vastly overpromising and underdelivering? Yes. Do I think that they are better at what they're doing now than when they were in 2016? Also yes. Was it still a shitty move? It was a shitty move because I'm fairly certain CIG knew that it wasn't feasible. But they also needed the money, and so they were lying to you. Unless I see something other than that, unless Chris Roberts wants to come out and explain why he did these things in detail with records, that's the best way of interpreting it. A bunch of company people who wanted to keep their company from tanking lied to people so that they could get enough time and money to get together to go forward. Now that does lead to the problem of, do they do it again? And quite frankly, I don't think they could. I don't think they'd get caught. And I don't think they'd want to do that again. Oh, hi. Hey, see, thanks for that 49 months, buddy. Tonk. Yes. Yes, persistent streaming is important because it allows for traders care about persistent streaming due to not losing their cargo, and players would care due to being able to log out anywhere. As long as that makes it into the server independent fashion, that'd be a major improvement. Persistent streaming will kill the 30K. It won't stop the 30K from happening, but it'll kill the pain of the 30K. And I think most people, if they can get rid of the 30Ks and just deal with crashes to desktop, which are rare, even today, in the PU live version, then it would probably change people's opinions on the game. Also, the fact that persistent streaming is coming in and server meshing is closely tied to it, by the time I really want to emphasize this, because this is something that a lot of people don't get. The game you're playing now is not the game that will be out. And I know that sounds like dreamer stuff, and a little bit of it is, But think about this. What can you do right now with 50 people in a server? You could crew a couple of ships. You could fight each other in, 25v25 people battle, or now that it's going to be reduced to 40, in 20v20 battles. That's a big, big stuff, but that's, a battlefield map. Now, double that from 40 to 80 or from 50 to 100. What can you do with that? 50v50? 50v50 is a lot different from 20v20 or, that kind of stuff. That was the exact same voice. Oh, hi. Yeah. So that's just doubling server capacity. Now, as you're going along and realizing how server meshing is supposed to work, you're looking at 100 people per server, and that server is a small area. That's massive. That's huge. That changes how you play. Because now, if I'm a lone hauler and I don't have backup, you better believe I'm going to get aced. I'm just going to get absolutely ganked by other players. The second the player cap goes to 100 or above is the second, if you are a trader not paying for protection, you are taking your life into your hands and all of your profits. The new 30K will not be a 30K. It'll be Space Cutlet or Dark Law or Moist Noodle with a gun to the back of your head telling you not to move while they take all your earnings. That's what's going to happen. So the big organizations can actually work together and get stuff done. The markets will be totally different. The game of even just adding more players and expanding the universe will fundamentally shift how you play the game. Yes, Kate, it's exactly how that works. But I honestly do think that CIG is not going to expand the scope beyond this that they currently have. And I've also seen the memes of like scope creep. Star Citizen is continuing to scope creep. It's like, not really. There are some scope creeps, but a lot of those scope creeps were planned beforehand. The biggest scope creep is landable planets, which was something they wanted to do, but in a limited format. And they wanted to expand that later after release. That's the big thing that caused all this delay. If they didn't do landable planets, if they just did, Elite Dangerous style planets where you can land on certain portions of a planet or a moon, and you had a cutscene between going to space and going to ground, we'd probably already have the game out in some way, shape, or form, but it wouldn't be the game we're playing today. Hey, Odinson, how you doing, buddy? I'm doing good. What if they did laser lights at the speed of light versus slow? They could, but I think the reason why they do slow lasers is more for gameplay purposes than immersion. Essentially, the whole game's based off of a false premise of space fighters in the future, which is not realistic. But in that universe, you wouldn't have lasers that could fire at the speed of light because you wouldn't be able to dodge them. So, that's one of those things that always drives me crazy, is that people are like, well, in reality, this wouldn't be a thing. It's like, in the reality, this game wouldn't exist. Anything in this game is false. All of it is false. What matters is, and I'm going to give you guys, come a little closer. Come a little closer. A little closer. You listening? You listening? That you who's working right now? I'm calling you out again. Yes, I know you're working again, but just come really close. I'm not going to scream. I'm going to be very quiet. There is no such thing as realistic science fiction. Even The Expanse, which is supposed to be the most realistic science fiction, is not realistic. It's not. It's fiction. There are elements you have to bend and maneuver for storytelling purposes or for gameplay purposes. So, yeah, it's entertainment. So that's the first thing that's important that I always tell when people are looking at Star Citizen is take your idea of realistic, put it in a rocket ship, and shoot it off to the sun, because it's not coming back. That's not what you're going to be getting with Star Citizen. What matters is, does it make sense in its own universe? In the context of its universe, in the context of its rules, does it make sense? Which is a better way of looking at science fiction and fantasy media and such. Yeah, there should be no recoil for lasers. Lasers, the way that they work in Star Citizen, wouldn't work that way, because lasers are not bolts, they're beams. They wouldn't make sounds. They would just be like you ever taken like a magnifying glass and try to like focus the sunbeam down into like to make it burn the ground or something like that. It's like that. That's all it is. You would make almost no sound except for maybe the generators charging the beam, and you wouldn't be able to have a generator small enough and powerful enough to put into a hand weapon like that. So they're modeled after Star Wars blasters. I think technically they work in a way that, and this is its internal logic, was that it's not lasers, they're plasma, but it's not really plasma as much as it's focused energy. Because you have plasma weapons and then you have focused energy weapons, which is what the laser weapons are. And then you have beam weapons, which are like modern lasers. And then you have ballistics, which are like modern guns. So. However, one of the reasons I brought into the game was the demonstration of realistic physics simulations. And as you're saying, I hope they work hard to make sure everything they do makes sense and at least believable in the context of the universe they're creating. 100%. And they do work they do a good job of at least the like IFCS. A lot of people don't know like IFCS systems do simulate realistic everything as much as they can. It's not DCS, but they've talked about in the past where like they could turn it into DCS if they wanted to. They just don't want to because it wouldn't be fun. So. Yeah, Eldar Tau plasma rather than Imperial plasma. Yeah. Hey, Destroyer, how you doing? Ionized plasma equals laser weapons. Yeah. The Expanse is awesome. The Expanse is amazing. The Expanse is probably the closest you're going to get to a realistic science fiction series that'll be popular enough. There's a couple things that break in there. One of which is you can't spin up asteroids. You can't spin up anything but a planet because asteroids aren't rock, they're rubble. A lot of people don't realize that asteroids are just giant gravel piles. So they'll just spin off into space rather than be spun up into a level of gravity. And the other thing is, of course, you can't, the Epstein drives are unrealistic. There's no way the Epstein drives would work. And they even just kind of hand wave the Epstein drives as well in the Expanse. But everything else is attempted to be as realistic as possible given the context of its universe. Now that Daymar is gone, where are you going to have your pub crawls? Well, we've always had pub crawls on other planets. I think we'll just have to wait for pub crawls to when we'll do a pub crawl next patch, and then but then the next pub crawl will be when Orison's in, and so if they have the Orison bar, which sounds like it's the bar they were talking about today in ISC, inside Star Citizen, which I can't remember the name of the bar, but if that's the case, then yeah, we'll go there. So we'll go Hurston's, Crusader, ArcCorp, and Microtech. Though you can still go to Crusader and just go to Grimhack's bar. Still the same thing. Geolock Area 18 bar? New Crabbage. Voyager bar. Yes, the Voyager bar. That's what it was called. Do you think we'll get thermal imaging? I don't think it's impossible. I think that's something that CIG has either looked at or has put on the back burner. I just think that thermal imaging, the reason why they haven't done it so far is because it would break a lot of the game in terms of how because in reality, the heat sensors on a planet against a night side, which is what you use it anyways, of a planet or a moon, you'd be able to pick out humans fairly easily in that background. And so you could just be like, cool, there they are, lol, die. And it reduces the challenge of having to fight ground targets with a big ship, because right now it's hard to find them amongst all the clutter and debris. So at least ground targets have some level of degree of advantage against spaceships. But when you reduce that skill gap, it becomes a one-sided slugfest, and we've seen it before, because back when ships could just sit there and literally go straight down, they would be able to just kill everybody. They used to also be able to track objects like players with their radar. So yeah, it was super easy to find players and kill them, which again ruins things like sniper gameplay, it ruins things like anti-ship gameplay. So until they can find a good balance for the two, some way to either disable them, some sort of counterplay against them, they're probably not going to do thermals until that happens. Do you know which will be the first alien race added? Destroyer 920. Probably the Devarin. They make the most sense because the Devarin are a species already in the UEE. You'll see them all over the UEE. And they'll likely play a role in one of the Squadron 42 games. Though we definitely know that the Vanduul have some role in Squadron 42. So maybe Vanduul. We'll see. I would say either Tevarin or Vanduul. But it depends on when Squadron 42 comes out. Cloaking, personal IR reduction, masking. Yeah, you'll need to have some sort of reasonable gameplay, like a cloak that will hide your heat signature, or some sort of device that will match the background radiation of heat for that as well. Those kind of things will work, but you need to have that in game, and it needs to be a meaningful counterplay, something that someone has to take because they know they're going to be tracked by IR signatures, that kind of stuff. They've mentioned several combat mission animations and behavior because it's in Squadron 42, which, again, if it's already in Squadron 42, it will make its way into the Star Citizen eventually. The only problem currently is that Stanton is a long, long way from the Vanduul front, so it doesn't make a lot of lore sense. Neither does Delamar and Stanton, but they're also removing Delamar, so... I remember CIG saying that optical cloaking wouldn't be a thing, like just going poof. No. But like you could still do a cloak in the sense of cloaking your heat signature. Those things sort of exist today, and there are ways. There are definitely technologies in place or being developed today to try to beat thermal technology as a means to stealth, like special ops teams or soldiers from thermal imaging. Yeah. Could be integrated into certain armor. Yeah, exactly. You could buy specialized armor. It could be an attachment point. A lot of people don't realize that in the future, the way that they want to build suits is like spaceships. So if you can think about a suit like a spaceship, you need a couple things. You need fuel, you need power, you need life support, but you also, as most ships have, you can have other components like coolers, like guns, like weapons, like scanning technology. So I anticipate in the future that as suits become more like spaceships, you're going to also have more attachment points, like a utility point or some other things for each part of the suit, which will do different things, like infrared or thermal vision, or infrared or night vision for helmets, or scanning suites on the helmet, or extra life support in like a backpack, or an EVA suit, so something that has like an extra fuel tank on the backpack, or just what we have now with like backpacks themselves, so to have extra storage, different types of medical like attachments, so you can put more like medipens on your arm or whatever, or on your legs, those sorts of attachments that will improve and take away, add or take away gameplay. Add and take away. So you chose this because you want to do this rather than the other thing. Exactly. Salvage suit, mining suit, exploration suit, heavy combat suit, scout suits. But I wouldn't expect them to be built in as like, you have to buy this suit and get this. I expect there might be some that have that passively, but then you could turn other ones into it with attachments, sort of thing. Do you think CIG will add one or more Nyx planets to the Stanton temporarily, or will we not see them until Nyx system is added? After PSSM and Pyro system added. I wouldn't be surprised if it takes long enough that you would see Pyro and Nyx come in at the same time, or Nyx come in shortly after Pyro is done. From the way it looks right now, Pyro is going to be probably done in terms of gameplay purposes, everything but possibly server meshing, by the end of the year. And if it comes in at the end of the year, before the end of the year, then anything done with Nyx will 100% be worked on once they're done with that. So once the planetary team is done with one, they're not going to sit around. They're going to move on to the next. And when they move on to the next one, they could be finished or close to being finished by Q1 of 2022. I wouldn't be surprised. Not saying it's going to happen. I'm just saying, based off of their current goals, it's definitely feasible that we'd get both at the same time. Because that's the big thing. The background stuff is the stuff that's that's preventing a lot of this stuff from coming in. The persistent streaming and server meshing. That background music is Boss. Thank you. The background music is The Chill Station. It's from Harris Heller. It's a chill station on Pretzel Rocks. So, will we ever get to go full cyborg robotics? That's a question that's been asked a lot. In lore, yes. 100% lore has full cyborg robotics, folks. There's a lot of crazy stuff in lore that they have. In gameplay, I wouldn't doubt it. I mean, I think it's going to mostly be cosmetic, because if it had an actual benefit in terms of players being able to, say, not need a suit, or not eat, or hit harder, or run faster, then it would also need a downside, like it requires power, or it can be attacked with EMP weapons, or distortion weapons can hurt it more than a regular human body. That kind of thing. So we'll see. You're still down. iCache gone? Yes! iCache is dead. Long live persistent streaming. iCache is gone. It is now called persistent streaming. And as I said a little bit earlier, there's one or two options for iCache being gone. One is that iCache is now persistent streaming, which we know. That means, and persistent streaming is wrapped up with server meshing, which means they're both the same thing. Historically, this has happened before with CIG. They had blind culling. I think it was either bind culling or blind culling. I can't remember what it was called, which was supposed to go well with OCS. They finished it before OCS, tried to put it in the game, and it didn't work. So they waited until they got to OCS, then they put it in there with OCS. This was client-side OCS, and it did really well. It could be that situation where they realize that it makes no sense to have persistent streaming in without server meshing. So they're tied. Or they're still releasing some stuff through persistent streaming, but it's not going to be told to us because they're not going to want to tell us, 3.14 is when we're going to get persistent streaming in. People will assume lots of different things, and they'd get angry when those things aren't met because they had made up in their own mind what was supposed to happen. So there's a couple different options for it, but yeah. No, he's responding to the title. It's fine. HD you're good, HD. It's an intentional. I intentionally titled it as iCache Gone because it gets people to go, wait, what are you talking about? What's going on? It's like, well, it's a bit of a clickbait, but it's important to notice. And I, as I said before, I'm intentionally titling it like that because I know people are going to lose their mind when they realize that iCache is gone. Because if you read the latest roadmap, they say that iCache is gone and that there is no spot for iCache because it is now persistent streaming. But most people won't read that, and they'll just start losing their mind when they realize that there is no iCache, and people can go, wait, what's happening to iCache? Where's it going? Why is it going? How long? Panic. And I'd rather you panic now. I'd rather you have a hyperventilation attack and start worrying about your life choices now than 3 weeks from now when there's no one there to explain it to you. Clickbait is fine as long as the clickbait is getting you interested into coming and joining us on the stream and having a discussion where we discuss the clickbait. There's a difference between bad clickbait and good clickbait. Most people associate clickbait with bad clickbait, where it's like, oh my gosh, you'll never believe this hot model, and then they don't say anything about it, or they just like a one-sentence reference. In this case, it's getting you interested to talk about it, and then we get to it and talk about it. I used to play Planetside 2, and they had 100 to 300 person battles at times, and they had a system where they only loaded in certain players to your client. I only really saw the effects of it once. When we get ship naming in the game, I'm naming my 350 far iCache because I'm going to be gone. There we go. That's a good way of looking at it. I'm still pretty impressed with a lot of CIG's design decisions. And if you put a title in a thumbnail with no title in the video, that's bad clickbait. Yes. What happened to the Genesis Starliner? Is it not on the roadmap? It's not on the roadmap right now, no. The vehicles that are coming in, first of all, Tonk. Tonk is coming in next patch, 3.13. Tonk hype. And then the RSI Constellation Taurus. The red-headed stepchild of the constellations. The one everyone's been asking about, but CIG's been refusing to deal with. That's coming in the Pi patch, the 3.14 patch. And then 3.15, we got the Chunky Monkey. The Chunky Monkey patch. We get the A2 Crusader, because we've got the C2 and the M2 coming out in 3.13, next patch. But the A2 is coming out in 3.15, plus both the Ares Ion and the Inferno are coming out in 3.15. And, of course, these are all tentative. They move around. And a giant pile of flying garbage that's on fire and covered with feces, and everyone should disdain. Also known as the Aegis Redeemer. That's also coming out in 3.15. So a lot of hype for that. And then they're redoing ship shield emitters by 3.16. So. Adam, you're good, dude. Don't worry about it. It's not clickbait. There is no bait. It's baiting you to click the answer. So. The forgotten stepchild of Star Citizen. Well, yeah. If the Connie is the forgotten stepchild of Star Citizen, the Taurus is the redheaded, the redheaded stepchild of that. It is the orphan that has been put in the corner and whipped and told to get out. I hate the Redeemer. Oh, yeah, I forgot to mention that as well. For those of you who weren't here earlier, if we reach 10,000 subscribers on YouTube, I will 100% do a museum piece, a museum video, Galactic Historian lore video piece on the Aegis Redeemer. If we reach 20,000 before I get that done, I will actually do that video for real and be nice to it. So it's up to you, Aegis Redeemer fans or haters. If you're a hater, just get me to 10K and then stop. If you're a big fan of the Aegis Redeemer, then get me to 20K followers on subscribers on YouTube, and I will be nice to your ship. I will also buy a Redeemer at 20,000. I will purchase a Redeemer and put it in my hangar and not sell it. Because everyone knows I hate the Redeemer. I hate the Redeemer with fiery passion. Thought we learned our lesson on shorting, on hedging our bets. Yes. Are they releasing the Moabs with the A2 so we can destroy settlements? Yes. That's one of the things they talked about. The reason why it's in 3.15 and not in 3.13 is because they want to release Moabs with the A2. There's a couple interesting features, so let's go through this real quickly. Let's go through this together so I can give you a basic idea of what's going on. So if you haven't seen this in other videos, this is the entire roadmap. Now, before I get started, every single one of this is going to change. This is all going to change. The 3.13 stuff is probably the most likely to make it in, but all of the stuff in 3.14 just expected to be moved to 3.15. All the 3.15 to say 3.16, 3.16 gone, disappeared. Never, don't think about it again. It's dead. It's dead, Jim. But these are all tentatives, right? You see, it says tentative, not confirmed. So they've introduced a new system of tentative, like substantive and confirmed or something like that. So they have a 3-tier system of letting us know what the status is of something at any given time. So 3.13, this is all stuff that was added earlier before the end of the year, which you already kind of know. The refinery stations, non-commercial overlays, which is good, adding non-commercial entrances to refinery stations, a new Stanton system polish, some more stuff, new asteroids, which is cool, and new cave entrances with drive-in and sinkholes. The drive-in ones and sinkholes you can, I guess, fly into. Now, gameplay. Spawn closets for missions, which means that enemies and allies will spawn into areas and then leave those areas as the mission goes on. Mounted guns. This is nuts. Further expanding the player's arsenal by allowing them to take control of mounted gun on either a vehicle or the ground. These weapons will offer greater firepower and stability at the cost of mobility. Meaning, I don't know, I need some more information on this one, but I'm fairly certain that means you might be able to take like a tripod or something, put it down, and then place size 1 gun on top of it, and then use it as a crew-served weapon. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I am absolutely out of my mind with this, but I would love that idea. I'm really digging all this list of promises CIG has given me on this roadmap. Force reactions. So they're going to expand the force reactions and how that works. The Mom's coming home. The missile guidance and control rework, which is the missile operator mode. Convert missiles to use IFCS guidance and control systems. This will improve missile performance and tracking ability, enabling greater control over general missile behaviors. So no longer will you see missiles doing the like sideways fly at a target. They'll basically be ships, is what that is. Vehicle names and serial numbers. You can name your ships. I want 420 doing your mom. 42069 doing your mom. That's all of the ships. All of them. Do it. Do it, Star Citizen community. They're also going to add visual wear and tear to players' ships, which is, again, one of those things that proves that possibly they're pushing for persistent streaming sooner rather than later, because you need persistent streaming for that to matter. Merlin and Constellation docking. So you're going to have docking with Merlin constellations. Missile operator mode. That's missile operator mode, which is missiles will now be controlled under a dedicated missile operator mode, which gives players the option to select and fire specific missiles while operating ships that allow for different types of missiles and torpedoes. I hope that also means that multi-crew, like if you have a pilot and a co-pilot, like you have a pilot in the Freelancer and you have a co-pilot, that the co-pilot can then take control of the missiles and fire them separately as the pilot is focusing on firing the guns and flying. Law System version 2, Surrender. So this allows players to be arrested without losing their life. They will be able to surrender by becoming halt and powering down their ships when ordered to security. Security will halt their attack and arrest criminal players and impound the ship if owned by a criminal, which means that in the future, when death is going to matter more, that will be a big thing. So that's one of those features that's meant to be put in a long time ago, but they've been pushing it back. Ship to station docking, being able to dock at ports and space stations, including various related work such as at ATC assigning you docking ports when appropriate, building out docking connectors and lobbies in space stations for large ships to connect to, which is going to allow for larger ships, which will be needed for the Hull series, which is suspiciously absent from this list. So, object push and pull, that was a new one that they added. So, this mechanic allows players to grab some larger objects and move them around an environment by either pushing them or pulling them. So instead of having to grab it and hold it and then scoot around, you can take an object and then you can push it or you can pull it with you as you're going through. This is in 0G or in not 0G. I'm so confused about the non-commercial overlays. What does that mean? Oh, okay. So let me look at that. Introducing new non-commercial overlays to entry areas of refinery stations to add more variety and better suit the theme. So if you enter the refinery right now, what you're greeted with right in front of you is OSHA compliance labor laws. If you notice that. It's not OSHA, it's the space OSHA, whatever they call it. It's essentially like your rights, your labor rights. What they want to do is they want to add an entrance which isn't you walking through the refinery, but you walking into the refinery office. So it's the non-commercial. It's the more It's the more. I think non-commercial is the wrong way of putting it. They should probably say non-industrial and the actual commercial, meaning like the retail, or non-commercial versus retail, like the retail entrance. What are the chances that the server wipes will wipe the game purchased ships? High, like low right now, but high once they get server meshing in. And there's other things like the Quanta system, the background economy system. All right, so that's what's coming in soon. Oh, Sposha, yeah. Looking forward to the size one mounted guns. A buddy of mine wanted to put a gun on an Argos. Came out. Yeah, I know. I want to make side guns on a Cutlass. I want to turn a Cutlass into a Huey because that's really what it would be. That's all it's missing, is CCR blaring in the background and a mounted gun. Non-employee entrance. Yeah, that's a great way of looking at it. Going into the retail entrance versus staff entrance. Yes. Sosha. I don't think they've fixed the Hornet or other ships stopping cockpits opening. No, I don't think they have either. Where's the multi-crew gameplay card? Not in yet. Mom? Yes. 4.0? No 4.0 this year. Now, they have said that once they can get Pyro in, and they said that in the roadmap roundup, that just because you don't see server meshing or Pyro in there doesn't mean that they may not put it in this year. They just don't have a confirmed date or confirmed timeline yet for it. They're still working on it, and they don't exactly know when it's going to release. That means it could release in 3.16, and that could turn into 4.0. But we don't know. And CIG isn't willing to make that call yet because they don't want to put it out there and have people go, it's a promise, put it on the promise board, and then people memeing and yelling at them for missing a date again. Which of these is surprise 4.0? The only one I can imagine being the surprise 4.0 is the Stone Cold Steve Austin patch. By the way, this is 3.13. This is the Pi patch. Say hello. This is Pi. You'll enjoy the Pi because Pi is good. Then you have the 3.15, and then you have the Stone Cold Steve Austin 3.16, or John 3.16 if you want to. The real legitimate Jesus patch. Legitimate Jesus patch. Because it's a reference to Jesus. Is it Mark or John 3? It's John 3.16, which is that. So I'm calling it right here. The Jesus patch. It's the Jesus patch. Everyone call it the Jesus patch. So it could spread misinformation and make the community angry more. Hey, Tinbot, how you doing? do you mean? I'm chiseling these into my granite tablets as we speak. It's in stone. All right, so pi. Let's look at the pi patch. For anyone who doesn't know why I'm saying pi patch, the mathematical term pi is 3.14, and I don't know all the decimals because I'm not a math person. So it's the pi patch. Deal with it. It's the pi patch. Pi patch. We're getting Crusader and Orison. Big ups for persistent streaming, possibly coming in at that point, or at least portions of it. Gameplay, FPS, radar, and scanning. This includes an improved signature system that supports much greater distances and dampening of signatures by environmental interference and larger entities. This feature will be available to players in ships, in ground vehicles, and on foot. So this is not just FPS, this is all radar and scanning is getting an overhaul in 3.14. This is hyped. Good pie filling. Weapon charge drain TO. All back-end tech tasks related to creating the first pass of the charge/drain features that will be used for future location and mission updates. So things like your hand mining stuff and such. Actor feature physical inventory. Physical inventory and pie. This is a hell of a pie. When implemented, players will be able to physically store weapons, gadgets, consumables, healing items, and more on their person and vehicles via backpacks and pockets and containers. Oh, I was a liar. I'm a liar. They said iCache. CIG, it says iCache. You told me iCache doesn't exist, but it's right there. Active feature physical inventory. You're a liar, CIG. Why do you lie to me? Jake. Blame Jake. Jake, are you in chat? Blame Jake. Blame Jake. Jake, why are you lying to me? Why are you lying to the entire community? For persistence, however, wherever players travel. Radar scanning and ping. So this is for the radar for players. That's FPS. So you're doing radar scanning and ping for vehicles and for players. So that's awesome. It includes all back-end tasks related to the initial implementation of healing feature will be used in future location and mission updates. We're getting healing T0. We're getting physical inventory T0. This is a fucking good pie, CIG. This is an amazing pie. My compliments to the chef. Hacking tech Tier 0, but you know. No, okay, it's okay. No one knows all the decimals. And NPC healing. Oh my god, I'm gonna hate it when 3.14 when this pod gets gutted. Oh my god. iCache isn't real. iCache can't hurt you. iCache exists. Please don't make it delay. Yeah, no, oh my god. This patch is too good. No, CIG. Don't make me hype for this patch. I'm going to be so angry when this patch gets so delayed. Then we have the redheaded stepchild of the stepchildren. This is the poor orphan child of the stepchildren of the universe, the constellation Taurus. It's coming in the pie. Migrating legacy vehicle XMLs to data core, which is good, which is another good sign that they're doing persistent streaming is going to be coming in 3.14 in the pie. Vehicle module swapping, which is systems support enabling players to swap vehicle rooms and modules via VMA, and allows for designers to specifically vehicle setup runtime in Squadron 42. So it's a Squadron 42 feature that's also being added to Star Citizen. The first initial pass will allow you to swap out your Retaliator modules, which means if you have a base Retaliator, you're about to lose all of your torpedoes come March or July. This is July. This one comes out. Come July. Your 4th of July will be with less fireworks. That's all it's going to say. Shield systems tech replacement. Adapt shields code to determine shield hits based off of dynamically colored shield meshes for more accurate combat gameplay and to eliminate possible weak spots in shields. This also extends shield tech to entities beyond just vehicles. There we go. We're getting shield tech, new shield tech coming in 314. This is a tasty, tasty pie. It's like a pecan or a pumpkin. It's a good peach or apple pie. But I'm afraid CIG is going to give us a road pie, a mud pie instead. But we'll see. And beer me, yeah. All right, 315. Small outpost colonialism. A small home for AI to live in shelter. They consist of a central hub and a few optional internal and external modules. They provide the basic necessities to support a small group of people for an indefinite amount of time. This is not, you're not building this on your own. This is AI. There is no date on 316 and beyond, 4.0. We don't know that. We do know that 4.0 will be coming out. Whatever patch has Pyro, has jump points in Pyro, will be the 4.0 patch. That could be 316. It could be 317. It could be 318. We don't know. All right. This is the other big one. All right, 315. Weapons, magazine stripping, and refilling. This is good. And I'll explain why. This allows players to strip found weapons and ammunition. And their ammunition, it can be remove each bullet and refill their own magazines manually via bullet reloader. This is only compatible with ballistic ammunition. Why is this good? Because it will turn your ballistic ammo, your ballistic weapons into multi-tools. Right now, your ballistic ammo is really good for being ballistic. There's really not much difference there's some damage differences, but in the future, ballistic ammo will be weak against certain things and energy weapons will be stronger. However, in the future, you'll be able to take individual ammo types. You want explosive rounds? Have some explosive rounds. You want to put some hollow points in that baby? Throw some hollow points in there. You want some AP rounds to get through them chunky boys of the Titan suits? Throw some AP rounds in there. Now you have a flexibility. You've gone from being a Bowie knife to being a Swiss Army knife. Yeah, you're not going to cut things around, but you can get through that door a lot easier now. Thank you for stressing AI. Most streamers are talking about how it's like a base building. It's not base building, it's AI. Whoever's saying that, you're wrong. Fight me. Actor feature team EVA T2. Further improvements in EVA experiences following transition to IFCS, including limited EVA fuel, and encourages the use of zero-G push-pull and the multi-tools tracker beam. Ground control to Major Tom. I'm stepping, Major Tom, to ground control. I'm stepping through the door. You don't want to hear me sing, I can't carry a tune in a bucket. Your spacesuits become spaceships. Cutting tier 0. Ooh. Hello, Salvage. Hello, Sneaky Salvage, coming in at the in September. I see you, Sneaky Salvage. All back-end tasks related to updating cutting feature of the multi-tool that will be used in future location and mission updates. The continued development of existing multi-tool technology will allow for players to cut through specific objects. This will primarily include the ability to freeform cut on specific surfaces. Now, this is why it's Sneaky Salvage. Some of those surfaces will 100% be the component storage areas. Where they're locked, you cut through the little hatch, pull it off, and now you've got access to the components inside, and you pull the components out, you put it in your little zone, and now you can go sell that component for money. And it's designed mostly for missions, but the reality is the difference between cutting off a hatch on a ship for a mission, it's not too different from cutting off a hatch on a ship for a component. Sneaky T0 salvage. Backpack QT drive. Yeah, we need the iCache. iCache is dead. It's called persistent streaming, except for that one point where CIG calls it iCache, but it's not called iCache anymore. Player interaction experience. Player interaction experience, or PI, We're getting pie after a pie. We're getting double pie. CIG, you can't. I can't eat anymore. No, I'm too fat. I can't have more pie. Is a holistic array of complementary features and systems, all related directly to the player. Player status, item status, environmental status, as well as interactions with both the game world and objects within it are covered under these systems. Oh, hello. That's cool. We're getting a new interaction system. Bombs and space mines for science. Players will have the ability to drop powerful bombs in atmosphere from ships in space, and players in certain ships will gain the ability to release space mines in coordinated fashion and attempt to trap and capture. CIG. Did you confirm that you're releasing the Nautilus in 3.15? Because this looks like you were confirming that you're releasing the Nautilus in 3.15. Unless you're getting a smaller mine layer, which you've confirmed one of the two. Which one is it? Why aren't you telling us? Why are you trying to save this reveal for CitizenCon? Because I know you're saving this reveal for CitizenCon because it's in 3.15, which is your CitizenCon patch. Why you gotta tease us like that? Why can't you just be open about it? God damn it. Ah, it wasn't Sneaky Salvage. It was Sneaky Salvage. Salvage Tier 0. Alright, for the risk of getting demonetized, I'm doing it. Now I'm going to do this. Here we go. No, that's not what I want. No, it's too epic. Pray with me, brothers. It has come. The time of ascension has come. Salvage the long-promised promised land. Let me see them poggers in chat. Let me see the emotes in chat. Put them hands up. Turn the music back on. Do you believe? Do you believe? Do you believe? There we go. It's on the roadmap, so it's going to get moved. It's going to get kicked down the road. This is something that's 100% not going to make it, and we won't see it again. But I had to make a meme out of it. I had to do it. I had to do it. So this feature includes all back-end tech tasks related to the initial implementation of salvage gameplay and missions. I do believe I'm delusional. That's the other question. Vulture? Now, tier 0 of salvage is not ships. It's tier 0 of salvage is hand salvage. It's using the hand tool. This is a meme. Yeah. I've been hurt too many times, CIG. I've been hurt too many times. That's weird. Object push pull, 0G push pull. I see it. They split it up. So now we're getting object push pull with or 0G push pull in 315 using hand. That's pretty good. I mean, 315 is it's not as epic as 314, but salvage alone, I'm looking forward to the tears and lamentations of the women when it comes to salvage. Then of course we've got the flying garbage can on fire, the piece of feces with maneuvering thrusters, the junk pile with quantum engine, the Redeemer. Then we got the A2 Hercules, which is pretty cool. Bombs. And then we get the Ares, the other big ship that people have been waiting for. You've got your update. The Ares is coming in September. Maybe. Don't you hate my Corsair, Phantom? The Corsair is beautiful. She's wonderful. All right, and then this is the other big one that I didn't see, which I saw recently, which is ship interior, exterior culling. When complete, the game engine will no longer render the interiors and exteriors of ships when not required. This means that, in effect, CIG can turn in the interior of a ship into its own server, which is cool. Which means that it's its own object container. And it won't have to render things on the outside, which means that your client will have an increase in bonus in performance, and it might even help the server out a little bit. So, all right, then the Stone Cold Steve Austin Jesus patch, 316 Orison version 2, improving Crusader's landing zone with more shops and expanding various things around the city. So we're going to get Orison in here, but it's going to be a latticework of platforms, but Orison is considered to be one of the most picturesque locations to stand in. This task included creating areas of the landing zone, including shipyards, habs, gardens, and spaceports. So it'll have some cool stuff, but not all the shops will be there. So will increase it. Just like we had Loreville version 1 and Loreville version 2, this is the same idea. Weapon, misfire, and wear. Wow. Are you ready for Star Tarkov? Because we're about to have Star Tarkov. Hey, I got 2 Redeemers. I don't know why you have 2 piles of garbage there, Shakes, but I'm guessing drones next year since they'll probably require docking. Yeah, probably. Schrodinger's box interior, something like that, yeah. Starkov. Yes, it's Starkov. That's what we'll start calling it. Thank you, Roman. Starkov, because we're about to get weapon misfire, wear and tear. Player slide. Baseball. We're getting slide now. So we're not just getting Starkov, we're getting Apex Citizen. With them slide mechanics. And we're getting prone. Oh, by the player and NPCs. I guess they improved the prone because we already have prone. It's a weird one to do. Actor feature ladders tier 1, improving the freedom of control while traversing ladders. Specifically, players will be able to aim and shoot weapons, use gadgets, heal, and complete other one-handed actions. They will also be able to dodge to the side to avoid gunfire or debris. Nice. This is pretty cool. It's probably for Squadron 42. Physicalized weapon handling introduces character animations while interacting with and customizing FPS weapons. The aim is to add a tactile look and feel to weapon handling, supporting the wider goal of higher fidelity character interactions with all relevant objects in game. That's cool. Lockers and inventory. Lockers T1 introduces consistent way to store clothes, armor, and items in a physicalized state. This also includes a more robust and tactile method of storing items on shelves and attachment services. This builds on the personal inventory and expanding inventory UI to include lockers. That's good. I do wonder if that means that we'll get something more like simple block, like what we have on our current player inventory screen. If that's something we'll see, like walk up to a storage container, click open, and then it'll just open up the inventory screen, and then you can like mess around with it. Whereas this is more of you open up the window and you can actually put stuff into the containers and such like that, which would be kind of cool. We're getting Fires. Fires is coming in at the end of the year. Fires. Will this game forever be in alpha or in development? Did Chris Roberts' plan, that is what's coming in 4.0, 5.0, 10.0 final game, go on as long as there is money? Chris Roberts' plan is, at this point, at least what it seems to be, is to release the game in stages and then never stop developing it. Will there be a released version? Probably. But it's likely more going to be something like a beta release where they go into a soft launch. Think something like, what is it called? Warframe. Warframe's a good example. Many people don't realize that Warframe is still in beta. The creators have said that they'll release Warframe when they're done making it. They're constantly going to put in more stuff into it. So it's like Warframe. I expect Star Citizen to always be in a state of beta up to a point. But once they stop wiping, it'll be essentially released. I also think that they'll eventually release it in kind of a released fashion, but that doesn't mean they're going to be stopping working on it. Will we getting fires in 316? Of course, we're not getting fires in 316. None of this is true. These are all lies. You're being lied to. There are lizard men in human suits that run CIG. They're trying to overthrow the universe and extract your precious bodily fluids from your body. Run far away. Is it finally out of early access? Because last time I checked, it was not in early. It was still in early access. It was still in beta. Even though it's released, it's done, but it's basically out of early access. Unless they had a big event recently. As long as it's not a dumpster fire, yeah. I look forward to seeing how much Delta V that a fire extinguisher has. I'm looking forward to wallying my way around the universe. All right, so converting shields ship emitters into physical objects that can be targeted and destroyed, giving players the ability to permanently disable enemy shields. Pretty cool. Dynamic door alignment for vehicles. When implemented, doors and elevators across the ship will dynamically adjust to terrain below them within a specified range. That's pretty cool. And the Origin M50 engine swapping. Update to allow players to swap the bespoke engine of the Origin M50 for other compatible components, which also might mean we'll start to get engine changes, like we'll be able to swap out engines probably somewhere around that same time or a little bit afterwards, which is cool. So that's the breakdown of all the updates, all the stuff we've been doing. I've been doing this for 2 hours. AI until I evict them. Yes. They're trying to find the last starfighter. Yeah. Consume, buy. Pi will run out of digits. Yes. If they want my body fluids, they have to come get them themselves. Lord of the Rings 9 just also released Mordor. Do you think the M50 engine swaps will be cosmetic only? No, I think they'll be... The CIG wants to make as much of the ships customizable as possible. The fact that they're adding shield emitters means that there's going to be a shield system plus shield emitters. If you destroy the emitters, you don't have to destroy the shields because they have to replace the emitters, especially on a ship, on any ship. Actually, it could be a big way of doing more damage, a faster way of doing it, unless you get a lucky shot and hit the shield generator. They want to add as much detail as possible to the ships. CIG's design philosophy seems to be complicate things, but don't make it too complicated. Don't make it overly complicated. Make things complex so that you can have deeper gameplay if you want to, but don't force players to involve themselves into complex gameplay unless they want to. But those who do go delve deep into the complex gameplay will be rewarded by having some advantage, either being really good at one thing or learning how their ships work at the edges of their functionality. So I expect engines to be swappable, shield emitters to be swappable. I expect pretty much anything that is a general component to be swappable in the future of Star Citizen. Complex, not complicated, yes. Any thoughts on Theaters of War? I think Theaters of War will still make it in. I think CIG is waiting to deal with a desync issue. It could be dead, but I really also hope that Theaters of War is more than just, hey, here's a couple of maps and and a gameplay. I hope that Theaters of War is also a revamp of Arena Commander and Star Marine, because that's really what we need. We don't need another game mode to add on top of Star Marine and Arena Commander. What we need is a complete rework of Arena Commander and Star Marine. And Theaters of War is poised to be that rework, if they want to. But we'll see. Which means salvageable. Yeah, swappable means physicality, which means salvageable. Exactly. Theaters of Snore. Well, docking is coming in. Final Form says, I'm guessing drones are coming in next year since they'll probably require docking. Docking's coming in next patch. So I think with drones, it's probably more making a meaningful gameplay. And a lot of the drones are refitting and repairing. And you'll notice that repair and refit and refuel, none of those are on the roadmap. So they're not working on repairing, refueling, and refitting, which kind of makes sense since a lot of that stuff isn't really needed for Squadron 42 because you can kind of hand wave it in the background. But it's not on the roadmap, so it's probably not being worked on. I'd love to add ass extra shield. Give me more of that ass shield. I need more ass shields. I would love to be able to increase the size of weapon hard points or even add new one with the drawbacks of affecting the ship's flight performance and in space and or in atmosphere. Yeah. Docking means solo rock mining with Cutlass Red now. No, unless there's a docking port on the rock that I don't know about. Because docking requires you to be able to physicalize, like, attach. Docking doesn't mean attachment, because unless there's some way that you can lift the rock with the red. You still have to, like, fits it sits rule still there. Yeah, that's a good deep dive into the the stuff. I'm not going through all of the progress tracker. The progress tracker is better to look at in terms of what exactly is coming and what's not. Though the overview is a good way of seeing what is going to be happening in Star Citizen. As I've said before, if you're wondering, why did Paul say iCache is gone? Because iCache is not what they're calling it anymore. Though it seems like they still are calling it that. It's just not something they want to talk about, really. The iCache system is being rolled into what's called persistent streaming. So persistent streaming is a separate entity that includes more than just iCache. I've heard it referenced as well as Pcache, which I'm guessing is persistence cache rather than inventory cache or information cache. So you've got iCache and Pcache and probably some other ones. And they just prefer to call those persistent streaming because it makes more sense because that's what it's supposed to be. Red has docking collars on the side. Can't exit pilot seat with a rock loaded. I mean, oh, you can load the rock, right? Wait, can't you already do that? You can already open up the side doors of the Red. Just because it's a docking collar doesn't mean you can't open it up and walk out of it. You can do that already. It's just going to be difficult. We'll see. Isn't Pcache the server item cache? It might be. I don't know. I figured that Pcache standard for persistence cache, but it could be the server item cache. They did say something about Pcache in some of their updates. If they mentioned it in a Star Citizen Live or some other comment that I didn't catch, that would make sense as well. It could also be tied together. They could be the same system, just different things that they cache. So I love to be able to tow vehicles under a ship, like how a helicopter can carry a vehicle. The Ursa has tow cable attachments on its top. It looks like it's designed to be able to rope, to like tie ropes onto it and lash it up. That would be cool. Does every ship with a uniquely shaped docking port get a special docks for them, or is there something I'm missing? All of the ships have got the same docking size. The docking port that's on the Aurora. So if you look at the Aurora doors, that's the standard docking port now. So if you're docking two ships together, you need those circular ports. They're on the Red, they're on the roof of the Freelancer in that little room. They're on the Connies. They're on the sides of the Constellations. I think they're on a couple of other vehicles as well, but that's the standard docking hatch. Starfire has one on the bottom, which is an EVA hatch as well. Caterpillar. Does Caterpillar have those docking ports? I thought they just had doors. We have Pcache now. iCache will be the independent database upgrade. Okay. Is it on the roof? Okay. Yeah, they're not on the Phoenix. So the Phoenix can't dock on the sides, but it has its own cradle for the Merlin or for the Archimedes, so it can dock the Archimedes. In the hallway to the command module. Okay, there we go. Oh yeah, you're right. I remember seeing that. So yeah, that exists. The Retaliator has one on the bottom. The Carrack has one on the side. Yeah, it has one on the side. The Freelancer has one on the top. All of them have standardized modules. Hey, Shakes at $20. Great show. Gonna watch the rest from the couch. Do it, buddy. We're almost done. So thank you for that $20 though, man. That's big. Whew. We have regular Pcache. They talked about it in super Pcache. Super Pcache. Maybe super Pico Cache. Super Pico Cache. His power level is over 9,000. His storage is over 9,000. Yeah, the hatch doesn't work on the Cat because I think it's designed for docking. So ultimate mega super cache. Hammerhead dock is the bigger one. The Hammerhead is a dock? Oh, it's the front one. Yeah, but that's not really designed for docking as much as that is, I think, a docking collar for a station rather than ship to ship. All of the Drake ships were supposed to have air shields at some point. They may have removed those abilities, but what would be cool is have those as upgrades. So you can buy an upgrade as an air shield for the sides of your Cutlass or your Caterpillar. That'd be cool, but we'll see. The Cuddy Hatch's label is EVA. I think it could also be used as a docking collar, but we'll see. Oh, yeah. I mean, yeah. I want an air shield variant for my Valkyrie. That would make sense. The go-between between dedicated game servers and the item cache. Yeah. The Super Pcache, yeah. So round ship docking collars will not have the equivalent at station? No, because those ships are supposed to be able to land in hangars. So any ship that's designed to land in a hangar at a station won't have a docking collar equivalent, as far as I understand. Unless they have some sort of adapter that they use. Didn't the first Cuddy had a docking collar right in the middle? Yes, I want to say it did. At least in the roof, maybe. Yes, but it also has a docking port on its nose for EVA work, but also for docking at a station. Because just because it can land on a hangar, it's a military ship. As we've seen, at least in terms of lore and videos, the military tends to EVA inspect most of their larger ships. So they'll have, starmen fly around in EVA suits to inspect the weapons as they're being operated, and it's really hard to do that in tight hangar bays. So I'm guessing that's why it has a docking port in its front, is because it's designed to attach to docking collars for inspections and for immediate entrance and exits. Because Hammerhead's she thick baby, she very thick, and so it's probably a little harder to land those things, as people have noticed in some standard hangars. Even the 890 has the larger sized docking collars as well. Turns the gravity back on. Yeah. Are we going to have dock rammers? Yes. We are definitely going to have dock rammers. So the round ship dockers collars will not have an equivalent at a station. I think it does. Yes, they won't. As far as I know. They may have equivalents, but that's going to be kind of awkward because, for instance, the Freelancer, its docking collar is in its top, in its roof, and same with the Caterpillar. And the only ones that have it on the sides are the Aurora, the Constellation, and the Cutlass Red. And the Carrack are the ones that have them on the side. So unless the Freelancer version is an EVA hatch, which would make sense, but there's no ladder to get out of that EVA hatch, then yeah. The MSR doesn't have one in lore. In lore, the MSR does have an airlock, but in reality, it doesn't. So, I don't know. If you ain't doing a drift inside turned into a docking collar, you're doing it wrong. I agree. All right, we're going to be ending this up here shortly. Didn't CIG say they will fix the MSR to have one? I don't know if they did or not. They may. I don't know. Thank you guys for coming in and watching this, The Office Hours. If you're enjoying this, hit that follow button if you're watching on Twitch. Subscribe to us if you're watching this on YouTube. Hit that like button on YouTube. Comment down below if you have questions, if you want to join in the conversations. Always love to see that. Like I said, we're pushing for 10K subs on Twitch. Yes, Twitch, 10,000 subs. On YouTube, 10,000 subs on YouTube. And 10,000 to get the Redeemer museum video, and 20,000 for me to be nice, or at least neutral about it. We'll... What is it? And on Twitch, we're, trying to get the follows up there as well. I'm trying to get 15K on Twitch. We're going to be back tomorrow playing some Star Citizen. I'll probably explore the PTU a little bit more, see if I can't get a crew together or fly with some other folks to do the Xeno threat mission and get ganked over and over again. But we'll see if we can have fun. Hands-off spin docking attempts, they're going to be happening in PTU. Thank you guys again. Like I say every time, hope to see y'all again soon. But if I don't, hope to see you someday in the black. And remember, Ex Historia and Astra. Later, y'all.